Yo, welcome back to On the Line with season 3. It's your host, Hanley. We're going from Vancouver to Saskatoon. I'm going to let my dude introduce himself. So go ahead, man. Let him know who you are.
What's good? I am Ray the Nihilist in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, representing Stay Royal Records, Household Records.
And how you doing, man? How's everything?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I've just been kind of getting a little rest on, getting over a head cold that luckily isn't COVID or anything. So just been taking it easy and trying to relax that off a little bit and spending time at home now.
How's Saskatoon doing?
It's crazy. And we the weather's as Saskatchewan as it gets. Like, it's been snowing, and then yesterday or today we woke up and it was literally like a bunch of snow on top of my car, and it's sunny now and the snow's melting and it'll probably be gone in the next couple of days. So
there you go.
Hopefully. And hopefully it's the last of it too, right? But it's
Sure.
like expected where we're from.
Definitely. All right, so let's just start with the music like I normally do. So it's Ray the Nihilist. How long you been making music for? When did you start?
I always forget how long I've been rapping for, but I've been making music, or I guess it depends. I've been just completely, music's been everything for as long as I can remember, really, right? Like, I started with my grandpa, I guess, teaching me at 5 years old, just showing me the guitar and stuff like that. And he used to write songs and stuff like that. And from that or there, I used to write all my songs. Yeah, so I've been doing it a long time. Kind of just throughout my teenage years, I was into rock and metal and stuff like that. And so I played drums, I played guitar, I've done vocals in other bands, just lots of stuff with bands. But as people in bands know, it's a lot of times it's tough to get all on the same page, and that's one of the things that I could never really do. So even back then, I was into I'd go to hip hop shows and stuff like that, and I enjoyed hip hop, but it wasn't my main thing and stuff. And then it wasn't something that I did until I was about 18 or 19, right? That I started, and I'm 24 now.
So you've been recording hip hop for about 4 or 5 years then?
Something like that, I think. Yeah, for about 5-6 years.
And what made you because were you aspiring to be in a rock band, or what kind of bands were they? Were they rock or punk or?
Yeah, no, they were metal. They were kind of punk stuff, or hardcore bands, stuff like that.
So were you aspiring to be that type of genre first?
I wouldn't say aspiring. It was just, that was what I was into at the time, right? And those were a lot of the first things that I picked up, was stuff like the drums, stuff like guitar. And so it kind of went hand in hand together, I guess, you know? Yeah.
So what made you decide to start writing and recording hip hop? Because from metal to hip hop, that's like a big spectrum change, I don't
know. I guess again, I was always into hip hop. I'd listen to it, and I enjoyed certain artists, in that range, but it was never my full blown thing. I guess I was decent from what I was told, and I don't really know. I don't know where the shift came from, really. I guess I wanted, when I first started, I was mainly going to do singing, and now I've kind of branched more into rapping stuff. And I can sing, I can do both. It's something that I just incorporate in, but yeah, I don't even really know.
Do you incorporate a lot of your past metal and rock type of sound, or do you just leave that out and do certain songs with that on its own?
It's kind of cool. I notice you can hear some of the elements sometimes in one or two of the tracks. I wouldn't say it's a conscious effort to be I'm gonna bring my metal or whatever in, or leave it out either, right? It just I think too, with the hip hop stuff, it allowed me to be more versatile, because you're not just stuck in the punk fast stuff, or whatever's in that range, right? You can, with me, I've always tried to be as flexible as possible with every track or every release or every project. Not every song is going to sound the same, and each one is going to be different in its own way. So it gave me more of that expression.
It's good that you've worked with multiple genres, because it could definitely help in the future with producing something or making something unique. You know what I mean? It could be that one track that you do. But the name Ray the Nihilist, where's that come from?
That comes from, and it's funny too, because I've had other artists or people trying to give advice, and it's not like anything bad or either anything like that, but they're like, oh, it sounds really dark and da 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 da, and I guess it is too. Like in hindsight, 5-6 years later, when you think about it, it's like, yeah, I guess. But
Yeah.
it really came from, when I look at it, a really like positive type shift in my life with where I was at, because I was um like a nihilist, right? It was like, man, there's nothing for me really. Like, I don't know what's the purpose. And there is no purpose. And it's just, we're
So
here, we pay taxes and we go, right? So
so for the
uh,
people that don't know what a nihilist is, do you want to tell them what a nihilist? I know what it is, but for the people who don't.
it's hard to like, for me to like directly define it, but that's pretty much the way I just said it, is like
Yeah.
pretty much what it is. We're here, we pay taxes and we die. Like, there's no direct purpose to what we're kind of doing here, right? And a lot of people that, there's a lot of different like routes that takes into like existential crises and stuff like that, which is almost definitely with where I was at. Um, you know, and that's just how I felt. But for me, it's almost like too, I've had this anxiety with death. And so those are types of, and for it took me realizing with death being like, you can't be scared of it, right? That's
Yeah.
got to be some sort of like inspiration for you to keep driving forward, because it's got to, keep the wheel moving, and you got to face it rather than, trying to take the boat sideways on the wave type thing, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going to tip. So it was the same thing. It was like, I'm going to call myself this. I'm going to accept it for what it is, but that's only because that's not who I want to be. So I'm going to get it for face value and then shift it, use
Yeah.
it for positive, right? So it's got the message behind it nowadays.
Okay. And do you think did like hip hop pull you out of that like mind state that you had?
Yes and no. Like for me, I've had moments where hip hop itself did lead to even darker points after that, right?
It
Because
does. It tends to do that, man.
yeah, I've struggled with addictions and a lot of stuff like that. But and it's also, those are self
We could
choices,
we
right?
could get into that stuff more deeper after the music part, because
Afterwards, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So
But
it
for
leads
now,
to,
like, so yes and no, you think some parts and some not, I guess.
yeah, I'd say, with where I'm at now in my life, most definitely, right? Because it's led to a lot of good experiences and amazing people and amazing connections. And nowadays, with who I am, right? Like, I have 3 kids and a wife, and I'm just, I kind of do my thing with my music, and I built a life that I can be happy with, and
Yeah.
just trying to
But
stay in that pocket, right?
but a family man first, right?
Yeah,
Always.
yeah, pretty much, definitely, like most definitely, right? I try to incorporate both of them as much as possible where I can, right? And the kids themselves even know that, like, they love what I do, and they support it. They've been to like any all ages shows, stuff like that. So I try and merge the two, right, with a
Right.
good balance.
That's good. So fast track, say like when you after you started making music, you started putting out consistent records and stuff. How is the response when you started to like now? How's the response been?
I don't know. It's hard for me to say, because I'm really bad for self-critiquing. Um, I'd say, when I first started, like first dropped, it was because of that shift of like, oh, it was a metal artist, and now who's the kid? But it's also, it's different, right? I think I got to look more outwards. I got people listening in Calgary and Edmonton, and, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
um, it's died down in the sense of locally, or even to just directly pop off, or whatever you want to call that range of things, right? But again, with where I'm at now, I've built a good community around me, and I've done enough for me to be proud of, and I've accomplished more than I could even have dreamt of when I'd started, right? Because a lot of the people that I used to look up to, or anything like that, I consider them, now brothers.
That's what hip hop should be about. It should be free range and open. Everybody's just trying to like consider it their own, and it's not. It's the biggest genre in the world. Like you can't claim it. You could be the greatest ever, but you can't
Yeah.
claim hip hop as your own. You know what I
No.
mean? Like you don't see Wayne, who's called the greatest, saying hip hop's mine. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I get the competitive side of it, right? Like,
oh,
I
for sure.
understand it, but I think there's this, especially with where I'm from, it is a lot of a toxicity almost.
Yeah, like Saskatoon is a smaller place and it's oversaturated with music. So like there's going to be competition trying to compete instead of trying to create.
Exactly. You know, you hit the nail on the head, and I get it. I've been in that mind state as well too, right? Some days I still am even, right?
I
But
mean, you have to be sometimes. It's hip hop, you know. There's gonna be shots here and there that you're gonna take and you're gonna give because like it's just what it is. I mean, sometimes it just happens. You know what I mean? It's the genre. It's how it's created.
where I'm at, right? It's not the headspace for me. I to go personal, like I've been, you know, trying to practice like my culture and just being mindful and not holding that type of energy because it's almost as if like people don't want, you know, you want everyone else to win, but not more than you, right?
Yeah,
And especially with where I'm from, it's that mentality. I think a lot of times, a lot of people want to take the rungs out of the ladder instead of help other people climb up.
yeah, man.
It's just a thing too, right? I think that's everywhere, genuinely,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like the more you go and the more you get into the other scenes, you can see those points. But it's as artists, I think it's about blocking that out and tunnel visioning it, right? And even if whatever it is, like you were saying about shots fired here or there, with where I'm at, it's like I won't be sending shots, and if whatever with I get it's hip hop, and if I have to take some L's, whatever. But to me, that's a win because I'm still gonna keep moving. I'm still gonna do my thing.
And like I tell like a lot of the artists, man, it's like you have to like be happy with your music first. You don't want to put out something you're not happy with just to please people. Really, you're not doing it for yourself anymore, and that's like you need to keep that creative control side of you.
And that's the problem with hip hop too, right? Is it's such a genre that it's easy to get trapped into that like cycle of trying to make what's because you want to balance the both of you and that so that you're able to reach a market, but at the same time it's like I don't know, it's just easy, it's a trap, right?
Yeah, people get into it, they start making what they hear, and then it's only later they realize like that's not the style for them, you know. But sometimes by then it's too late. Like you've already like made music that people don't fuck with, so they're not going to trust the new shit you put out. If you're when you're becoming an artist, I feel like before you start even going to a studio, just try to figure out what kind of artist in hip hop you're gonna be. You could be really, really artistic, or you could just be like a rapper. It's best if you can find a balance in between. Sometimes you can't, so you have to be unique in one of those sides.
Yeah,
it's hard sometimes. So, and like you said, in smaller places like even Ottawa's small. There's tons of rappers here, man. It's oversaturated with rappers.
yeah,
It's crazy out here.
yeah.
And there's a lot of hate and a lot of people who are just not accepting anybody and fuck with their own and shit like that, which is fine, I guess. But I mean, I feel like if you don't try working with other people, like you might miss that shot of making that one track.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like again the balance, right?
Yeah, the balance can be very hard to do.
It's kind of like you were saying, like I don't know what the population of Ottawa is.
So I think it's a million now.
1,000,000 K. So population of Saskatoon, we are 273,000.
Probably have like 4,000 rappers.
Yeah, like, and it's tough, right? So you want to appeal to everybody, and everybody is almost trying to take everybody's fans, but it's like we all have the same fan. So you really do just have to, you know, put the blinders on and kind of move forward.
Do you really want to lose those fans over like a petty rap battle or rap beef? You end up making them choose over you.
Yeah, I've been exactly in that spot, and you know, and I've even like talked with promoters, and it's tough. It's like we can't book you for shows and them for shows because this and that, and you guys have the same fans, so you won't sell tickets, and you know their fans don't like you, and your fans don't like them, and you know even nowadays, like I encourage the exact opposite. I'm with where I'm at. I'm just like, man, everybody should be able to eat. It's all good behind closed doors. Like I clap for everybody, you know, regardless. I'm over that vibe, right?
I'm the same way. I try to unify the city as much as I can. I try to unify everybody. Like bridge that gap. You got to make that bridge and connect. The whole point of collaboration is so everybody can get like something at the table, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's exactly that, right? Like everyone should be able to eat. For me, it's just that's been my statement for a while, right?
Yeah, it's just easier said than done because of the way like energy is with people.
Oh yeah, and that's for me. Like I said, going back to to continue what I said, indigenous culture and stuff, that to carry that energy for me is just like not good, right? That's something that I'm really trying to be mindful of and practice. If I can, like I've even reached out to people who I feel would reciprocate that, or even if they won't, right? I'm just to right those wrongs or whatever it may be, you know, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's just get over talking about all this bad energy that comes from the music and talk about how you just had a great tour event with Junk, Young Stitch, D-Rec was there, Just Read.
Yeah, and Braden Bonnet.
Yeah, Braden Bonnet. Sorry, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. It was really good, man. Honestly, I don't know. That tour for me is hard to summarize.
It's fresh still, right? So
it's pretty fresh, and it was something that I didn't really expect either. Like I've worked with Junk, I've worked with Stitch, but I've also looked up to a lot of those guys for a long time, right? Like even D-Rex, since I was like 16, I met him. So to go out there and I kind of just packed my bags and went, right? Like I said yes before I even had knew I was able to actually go, right? Like so it was kind of tough in that way, but I don't know. The outcome it was crazy, and it's more or less the connections, not even in the terms of connections business wise, but just the genuine friendships or brotherhood or whatever you would love for each other. Coming home and the experiences that we all had is something special for sure. And I'm almost closer to a lot of those guys now than some of the people that I've known in my city for a long time, right? Like I talked to Devin, like we've texted nonstop since the tour, and we've called each other and even Reed, we text often, and a lot of those guys, it was just a special bond. And like I was saying too, right? I've looked up to them. So it was like a bit of manifestation and hard work paying off and etc. To be brought onto Household even was like crazy, because Junk was the first like Canadian rapper that I had looked up to, or I had seen something that, that was my like Snack the Ripper or whatever. Right. So just like full circle almost. And it's like just a blessing that hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah, no, but it seems like it's lifted you up. It seems like you're inspired just by the way you're talking. It seems like you got some focus.
I do for sure. It's tunnel vision from here on out. And I've had points like to get deep, like, I lost my grandfather in February, and that's the reason like I made music, right? So this tour, even when I headed out, I was like, man, this is for him.
Grandparents are the hardest ones, man. Aside from parents.
Well, my grandparents are the closest to me, right? Like they pretty much raised me. So it was more or less like losing a dad, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the way that, like I was saying, like he taught me guitar, he showed me how to write songs. Like, so when that happened, I'm like, man, like I'm done. Even before then, I had a lot of, I don't know what you'd call it, like self-doubt or whatever it may be, or just you trying to balance family and music, or other independent artists, like, no, especially when you're like really investing and you're putting like thousands of dollars into like an album or a track or this or that or this feature or whoever, and it's not paying off the way you like expect it to or whatever. And it's just like, I don't think you can look at it like that, but it's tough, right? So it's easy to get caught up in that mentality. And I think, it was tough for me. So I was almost kind of like out of the game at that point. Even as I left out to like, the first date I did was the Medicine Hat date of the tour. And even as I left to that, I was like, man, I'm going to do the tour. I'm going to have a good time. And then, I'm going to come home and I think I might be done. And, again, like I said, to come back and to be brought onto Household, or to be genuine, have genuine love for these guys, right? Like the experiences we had is just something I couldn't have thought, really. Especially if you would have told 18-year-old Ray, where he would have been, 6 years or whatever it was, like now, it's just like mind-boggling for me. So
especially when you said you had that type of mind state, right? So like So yeah, definitely. It's good to see. Like I'm glad to hear it. I love to hear that shit, because Junk's dope. I've talked to him. I haven't met him. Me and Stitch go way back. Yeah, and then like when I started doing the podcast last year, like coming back and going and reach out to people, and I saw like all the shit he's done since his BET championship and like his KOTD battles, whatever it was. Like, he was always about his bars, and I'm glad he was able to like uniquely fit it into the type of wave that's going on, like the sound. Lions Eat Goat album, they definitely made like it. That was the balance. Like they definitely hit the balance. in it.
Mhm.
Like he said, it's going to be a staple album for Canadian hip hop. I agree with Junk when he says that.
Yeah, and I think the crazy part too is those. I don't know if they even expected to like. I knew they probably both thought it was going to be like absolutely amazing, and it is. It's a masterpiece, especially in the way that those two were able to make it like over voice memos and crazy stuff like that. When you hear the behind the scenes of it, it's just like holy fuck, like.
Yeah,
And
bro.
as you were saying, like both of those guys are just phenomenal artists. Like I just got that latest project that Junk dropped there, the Test of the Caso, and he made it in like 13 hours.
I watched some of the documentary. I got to watch the full thing.
Yeah, you got it. That was the main thing. Like I watched that because, like I said, I made a good connection with Devin. Like me and him talk constantly. So when I came up, I was checking out his YouTube and stuff like that, and you seen the documentary, and I just watched the whole thing. I was like, man, I got to get to the studio, but I had a stuffy nose, and so I couldn't do that. But I'm gonna get in there for sure, for sure. And like that's like you were saying too, right? To go from kind of wanting to pack it up. The drive that I have now is like completely different. It's almost like if I got here in 5-6 years, or if you would have told young Ray that, like, where am I going to be in the next 5 years? So it's giving me that drive to just no matter what, kind of keep pushing and keep going. Like I kind of had an off year even last year. I released one track. I don't think I've released like a full like drop since. So even to be able to have those accomplishments, like was pretty good.
Yeah, man, it sounds good. Congratulations on that success. You doing the tour and stuff. Like you said, it feels like it came full circle, and that's always like a great feeling. It's definitely great to hear. Do you have any projects that you're going to be working on to put out, or do you have a current project that's out that you want people to check?
I got like my latest tracks, like I got a project Heiano. I got it's spelled Heiya. I got a track with Junk called Underdog. That's the latest stuff. But then I got stuff that I'm working on right now, actually. That I think I'm gonna start working on my album. It's something that like I've been working on for a while. I've been like kind of sitting with Mason Rex, who does a lot of my beats, and we've been working on some stuff and going back and forth here and there, and like playing with ideas. But I think I am gonna like put my head down. I think I got a good single in the works here that I'm gonna do with that, and I got a track with an artist from Seattle, Travis Thompson, kind of more up there. He's done a lot of stuff in regards to like the hip hop, especially in America. To be able to work with him is crazy. I forget what he's actually done, but he just did something even this year that was crazy with like the BET Awards, and did like a cipher and a lot of stuff. He's got
That's
a lot
dope.
of accolades, but he's an amazing artist.
Yeah.
And so I got a good track with him in the works. That was a long time, kind of goal of mine. Yeah, I think I got a couple tracks in the vault, and then I'm gonna start, grinding out a good product.
The album or EP that you were just talking about with Junk with the song Underdog on it, what's the meaning of it?
So I did two albums. It was Kantana, and then it was Heiano, and that's means plain and simple in Japanese, I think it is. So those
Okay.
two projects were just supposed to be like I mixed them. I had the first one was like old recording sessions and maybe one or two track I think I did with like Stitch, and a new one with Junk. And then I did those though in like 2 weeks or whatever. Like I had the project done and I just released it kind of thing and got it out. And then the second one was almost the same thing. It was riding that momentum of that last project and just kept moving. And I made the whole project, like produced. That was where I finally kind of got confident with like my production. So I
Okay.
started making my own beats a lot of times. I think the only two songs on that Heya project is one with D-Rec and then one with Mason Rex. So I made a majority of the project, and it was just again me just creating, and I kind of just made it.
I didn't realize you were a producer too.
Yeah, I don't really like I put it out there, too much, but I think I'm getting a lot more confident with my capabilities in that terms. But yeah, I've always kind of made like beats, and I've always because again, right, I played drums and all that kind of stuff, so it all ties in. And a lot of it is like nowadays, especially, right, is just like loops and shifting those loops to completely like new sounds,
Yeah.
and then reworking them, and doing crazy
I
stuff.
think
And
if I was producing right now, my focus would be like making a new sound or new type melody. Like everybody has that, not everybody, but there's a lot of similarities in everybody's melodies and everybody's ride of the track. You know what I mean? It's a lot
Mhm.
of like trap drill, trap pop, or
Yeah.
like shit like that, which is okay. I mean, mean? Like, if you make it dope, you make it dope. There's no problem. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of it. It's oversaturated. So I think, like I said, like we were saying, that balance is something I think artists need, and I think producers need too, because they're getting the bag right now with the beats that they're making. So they're not focusing on actually creating like they usually would. Like, they made the bag off making beats like that, but what else can you make? Like, make something that is gonna make a new wave for hip hop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make a staple.
Like, shift your own sound, and you know, yeah. And it's tough to do that nowadays, right? Because there's so many sounds. It's kind of like you just have to, again, like, not put yourself in a pocket, especially as a producer. Like, I will flip vinyl, and I will also like do a trap beat, or I will do, you know, kind of just whatever comes. And I think that's almost the best way to do it, is just to sit down and not think about it and just kind of go, right? And I think that's how I've ended up with some of my best work.
Yeah, I love vinyl, man.
For sure.
I love crate rocking and looking for fucking vinyls, bro, for sure.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so successful tour, you're gonna start grinding out an album and stuff like that. It sounds good. I know you said you have a track. You want to introduce the one we're gonna hear for the intermission?
Yeah. It's Ray the Nihilist. You're listening to Underdog featuring Chunk.
That's what's up. We'll be right back.
Yeah. You can't fuck with me, cause I done did it for you. 2020, I got no limits. No stopping the runner-up, and I'm not finished. Top 5, dead or alive, my vision is 2020, and I'm not set my limits. Back with a vengeance, no cap like that, make an entrance. Geppetto, you my puppets, been pulling strings like Hendrix. You ain't got shit with merit, you saying life's a blessing. I'm trying to stay remembered, stay gold without a pendant. Get it? I get to wrecking, the records break, I might set it straight. No stopping, my only option is let it spray. Stick a pause, don't get involved in my lane. I keep it raw, then kill them all like John Wayne. Gacy, they say my flow go crazy. It's either that or lately. They claim that I'm fugazi. I don't care what they say. Trust you but ain't it rain. Hear that become irate, then try to shoot the game. That's funny. Whole time they be saying that they up to something. Why they always bluffing, say they get it when they really doesn't. Stay redundant, that's facts, that's why they holding grudges. Go back and forth like a devoted couple. Fuck it, let's keep it proper. I'm on top of the podium, non-stop with the focus. I'm cleaning up like custodians. I don't fuck with it, this is double H or SR. No cap, I'm just trying to raise the benchmark. Fuck with me, the underdog, done did it. No stopping the runner-up, and I'm not finished. Top 5, dead or alive, my vision is 2020, and I'm not setting my limits. Fuck with me, the underdog, done did it. No stopping the runner-up, and we not finished. Top 5, dead or alive, my vision is 2020, and I'm not setting my limits.
My tank ain't no E, no limit master P. My squad rocked the mask before the mask was a name. Jack boys on my team, pull up a bank and machines. Have you grasping for peace while they grasping they beats? Look, I come from nothing, fuck around, I uppercut them underground. I don't construction, now I'm up above you suckers. Motherfuckers think I'm frontin', bitch, you wrong, it's done it. I'm the one they come to running, doing something's in the public. Beast in it, if beef exists, then they'll come to squash. Only beneath a bitches when I'm underdog. Each one in the clique, American flag, bunch of stars. Wrap your head around that and get a bunch of gauze. I rip the eighth letter twice, talk shit, we gon' scrap like a Mayweather fight. The fuels and the pressure, too much at stake. I move with investors, but fuck y'all, still trying to put up this music with breath.
Fuck with me, the underdog, done did it. No stopping the runner-up, and I'm not finished. Top 5, dead or alive, my vision is 2020, and I'm not setting my limits.
And we're back with Ray the Nihilist. So we just heard Underdog from Ray the Nihilist featuring Junk.
Kind of, that's just the most recent single I've released.
Okay.
From last thing I kind of worked on, really.
So most recent single. And how was the response to that?
I'd say it was good. You know, like for me, it was more of just a personal thing, right? Like at that point with where I wasn't like looking for a big response. It was just, I want to work with Junk again. At that time I was working with Mason, and I still work with Mason quite frequently. Like, and I wanted a track that was engineered by Jamie Hughes, you know? So that was, a good team behind it. And it was a good experience to be able to kind of just trust everyone else and do my thing, and it all came together amazingly.
So, all right, we'll get into the mental health talk. You said you're a mental health advocate too, and the beginning you're talking about you had your own personal struggles. You think
Mhm.
having a nihilist ideation like affected your mental health? You know, it's
I
very
really,
like kind of passive, pessimistic. Like, yeah, we're here, we're gone. That you know, like so. There's no
definitely.
in between. It seems for like I don't blame you because I have a similar mentality. I still kind of work like that. I just do this to try and cripple that thought. Like and help people at the same time. Like this is just me trying to help people. You know what I mean? So having that ideation, you think that affected your mental health later on?
Uh, I think yes and no, because I think it also stemmed from me having like I lost my father at a young age, and you once I was about 11 or 12, and I like kind of thought about the fact that one day we are all going to die. That's where I think ideology stemmed from. So by the time I was really wrapped up in that, I think it was almost too late to
Right.
you know what I mean, to really think about that. And I don't even think it was like a given choice of like I'm gonna think like this, right? So it's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds tough. So like you lost your father at a young age. How old were you?
I think I was 9 or 10. Yeah.
That's traumatic at that age, especially, man, because like you remember it, you know what I mean? You're not like 2 or 3 or like it
Mm,
happens, which is still unfortunate, don't get me wrong. Like no one wants to
mm,
lose a parent, but like 2 or 3, you grow up, you just have like little memories of it here and there. You know, you don't recognize it like you would at the age you said you were. So like
mm.
that must have been traumatic for you. You must have hit hard, obviously. And I
And
guess that's where
yeah,
your grandparents came into play.
no, it was for me that like that death too, it was different, right? Because my father didn't play a huge role in my life. So it's almost about you have to learn about him after, right? And you have to hear
Okay.
these stories afterwards and figure out who he was afterwards. And even nowadays, I'm at a point where I finally just feel that I can't figure out who he was, you know what I mean? So I've gotten really I wasn't close with that side of the family either. So I have a sister as well and we've, gotten close recently, and even with her to play a good role with her and be a role model for her is something, right? That's something that I didn't have. So,
Is she a lot
um,
younger than you?
yeah, she's 16.
Okay, so she's quite young and she's still learning for sure.
Well, exactly. And she's smart too, right? I think with what we went through, my dad had overdosed and he had a heart murmur and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, um,
That's rough, man. I'm sorry to hear that. When I was 12, my brother overdosed. Luckily, fortunately, he survived it. But being 12, having to like drag him down 2 flights of stairs and shit was tough.
and
You
then
know?
again, right? Like it comes that type of thing. With what I'm learning in my culture about like just generational trauma and et cetera, and you start really, even not even in my culture, but just
And no,
personally as well about
but
myself, right?
indigenous culture has a lot of generational trauma, man. Like you guys specifically have it like extremely rough, and like not a lot of people recognize it like they should. And
Yeah.
like it doesn't just go back like your like to your grandfather or your great grandfather. It goes back deep.
Well, exactly, right. And it's like I learned last summer that my family was actually like in the line of residential schooling, et cetera, right? So dad was actually part of the 60s scoop as well. So with what he went through, right, he turned to drugs and alcohol and et cetera, and just drowning out his issues with addictions.
People think like indigenous people are just drinking and doing like dope and shit because they're indigenous. Like, does that really make fucking sense? Like, no, it doesn't. There's trauma based behind most of these people with addictions in your
Mhm.
communities, but that's what a lot of it ends up stemming from, you know. And people they're just ignorant and just judge someone who's indigenous and like struggling with alcohol or struggling with whatever it is right now.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, right? As it does it to continue with that, it goes full circle, right? Because then I myself, um, trying to cope with everything that I go through, right? Again,
Yeah.
I don't even think it has, not to correct you or anything, right? Because you did make a good point, but I don't even think it has anything to do with indigenous as well. We do have a lot of like trauma, but I think in today's day and age, with what we're figuring out about mental health and how the brain works and PTSD and stuff like that, and um I think there's just a list of generational traumas, you know, like, and it boils down to even the way that we parent, right? And me myself is, like, I'm a step parent, but I don't consider it that, right? Because if you're gonna step into the kid's life, you know,
Might
you're
as
gonna
well be
be a
there
father. Yeah, exactly. So
for
that's
sure.
the way that I look at it, but I don't use the word. But so with that, it's like me learning. We as parents, a lot of times, like, just take the love away. Well, if you do this, you can't have this, or if you do this, you're gonna go to your room, or then it makes the, like, you know, and that's just what we're used to.
Yeah.
And that is like in itself generational trauma, because you're taking away. It's almost like, if you're good, I love you. If you're bad, I take that love away. You know,
Yeah.
everything, like, it's all over, like, just generational traumas. And even in the ways that, because of the generational gaps, right? Like, with me growing up with my grandparents, it was a lot of tough love. It was a lot of, you know, in hindsight, right? You look at it, there was, you're going to get a job, you're going to do this, you're going to get a good education, et cetera. And you're pushed past the point of burnout. But you also can't blame them, right?
Yeah.
Because
They
they
want
were
you to have
probably,
better than what they had.
oh, exactly. And, you know, my grandma came from, she was raised as like a farmer, you know, in like the 60s and stuff. And they came from nothing, right? So,
Right.
I get it. You know what I mean? I'm glad it's something that I've figured out young, and been able to really, put into my life and practice, because it you start to look at people different, right? Because even like the classic, like, oh, I hate my parents, or this or that, or da 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 da. Like, a lot of times there's good intentions with everybody, even if, no matter what they're trying to do, right? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of past generations too don't know how to deal with those things in the right manner, because they were never taught, or never shown, or never given that chance to. You were saying, like, especially in the indigenous culture, right? Like, when everything you've had is taken away from you, and you're never taught what you want or what you need, et cetera, is what's right to you, what else do you have, right? And you start to turn to other stuff.
Exactly. Growing up and stuff, like, obviously with your passing of your father, it must have affected you mental health wise. Growing up, what kind of struggles were you facing? What was it that you were dealing with yourself personally? What were the demons that you were fighting with?
To me, like, and it's tough to say, right? Like, for me, it's not to, you know, be like negative or whatever, but it stems back like a long time, right? Like, I was bullied for a long time, even before that. Like, I was diagnosed with ADD at like 6, 7 years old. So I started taking Ritalin then, when I probably didn't need it.
A
And
lot of
that's
kids were
also,
prescribed that shit for nothing.
oh, exactly. And it's like, it's an amphetamine, right? So it's a cousin of meth. Like, and to give us a 7-year-old whose brain, you're not supposed to, is what I found out. You're not supposed to, and a lot of people are finding out, you're not supposed to give that to people whose brain are still developing, because it does lead to anxiety and depression as you grow up. So I think that played a factor, with my mental health. I think, you know, my dad, yeah, and my mom and my stepdad, split up when I was a kid as well, and they were together for, you know, a good 10 years. So that played a part, you know, kind of like a broken family situation. And that was you know, my mom started working a bit more, and that was kind of the reason I went with my
And
grandparents.
how old are you at this time?
About 10 or 11. So still really young, right? And that's when I moved with my grandparents, and luckily I moved with them as well, because, you know, they were, there wasn't that type of scenarios there, right? So it
Yeah.
was a positive place. But even then, right, you're dealing with the pressure from, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15 up until 18, 19, you know, whenever. Even the 20s are rough. So with that, like we were saying, with the tough love kind of scenario, and just driven to, even without the tough love, right? I think as teenagers, and being almost forced to be in a system that's like rigged to fail, right? Because if you don't want to do something that's science based, and you fail at science, you're failing, right? And so you're pushed and pushed and pushed, and I think even kids are pushed to like past the point of burnout.
Starting music and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, were you dealing with a lot? Because you said you had some addiction issues too, right?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, you know, again, it's easy to, like, I started, you know, smoking weed when I was like 13, and, you know, stuff like that. And I started drinking when I was like 16, you know, and part, like, not even just drinking, but like full week benders, or, you know, every couple days for like 6 months straight, and, you know, leading into addiction without even realizing it, because I don't feel anything. And I don't even think I so subconsciously did that. And I think that's where a lot of today's youth are even, right? It's just, if I can feel
Absolutely.
better for the time being, I'm going to do it. And
Yeah.
it's easy to, right? Because especially with that age, there's not a lot to do. There's not a lot of, youth orientated events or stuff that's projected to them. And even if it
Right.
is like competitive sports or et cetera, which is something that I try and do now with my company to extend that, I want to get into like doing like 13 to 18
All ages type.
alcohol free events and doing like youth nights or bringing them into the studio and like doing programs and showing, like I'd rather give back in that way if that's what they want to do, right?
Yeah,
Because again,
bro.
that's something that I did not.
I don't even think it should be if they want it. I think if you, like they say, if you build it, they will come. We have an art center here, but it's you have to pay to use it. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
when I think about an art center and like youth in general and at-risk youth, people in general, I don't give a shit who comes, really, just anybody who needs an outlet. I feel like I look at the Chance the Rapper coming up scenario when he recorded his first album in the Chicago Public Library for
Yeah.
free, and then look at where he's at now. And then like if we had an art center where kids just could just come to create, like nowadays they want a TikTok green room, but that's fine. But
Yeah.
having a studio for them to use, having volunteers who are down to help it, like try and get like support from the public or grants from the government to have an art center.
Mhm.
I don't see why people have to be charged to try and create art when a lot of the art, like comedy, for example, if someone wanted to use one of the rooms to practice their skits for like a few friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Comedy not even recognized in Canada's arts, so they can't even get grants. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, why not let people be able to practice somewhere where they're freely open to practice? They could have strangers watching. They could just bring people to watch. You know what I mean? Why can't a kid come and record a song that he wants to record because his buddy just got shot and killed? He wants to make a memorial track. Why can't he come and create? Why does he have to pay like an art center to create? You know what I mean? Why isn't an art center if people are paying? But art's priceless, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
that's why I'm trying to do the same thing as you. So like if I was able to do it, I'd love to start making them like province wide as like not a brand, but as you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm on the same wavelength as what you're thinking about doing for the community. Like I do this to help people struggling in silence, and they get to hear people like they relate to, and then they end up trying to get help. They end up going to rehab. I've had a few of them reach out and tell me, and I'm like, that's great. That's what I do it for. But like the art center thing is like a major key that I'm trying to get pushed into a lock right now. But like someone changed the locks. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And for me, I'm luckily enough at a point where, I have a venue that I'm in talks with to do that kind of thing. And I feel that I run downtown, so I'm able to do that kind of thing. And sorry, dude, we got off tangent too, but go back to it, like it'll be no alcohol because that was another thing, right? I went from there to like, hard drugs and etc. And, like it's rough. And especially to go back to my community, which is Kainai First Nations, the Blood Reserve, in Alberta, there's a full-blown epidemic crisis of addictions and mental health.
Definitely.
And it's something that for me is like, when I went back there and I actually talked to the people, like my sister and et cetera, and community members there. And it's like the money that we get as a reserve is finally being spent decently, but it's still not being spent decently, right?
Yeah.
Like it's going into like $500,000 sports centers or whatever it is. Like, and it's like these kids and people don't need a sports center. They need, a mental health center or an addiction center, or even like some other outlet, to be able to create or express themselves. And I think that's the main thing, right? Is expression. Being able to express your feelings in whatever way it is, writing or drawing or dance or anything, right? Art is huge, and it's just kind of not recognized. And that's something that I just, I'm almost past the point with coming through my addictions, and I'm still, not to say that I don't still battle with my own depression, my own anxiety, stuff like that, but I think I'm at a point where I can accept them, right? And I can move with them. And that's just, I'd like to be able to help people now, right? And so if I can be an advocate for not only that place, that'd be, something that means a lot to me, and also people that are close to me, right? Like I have good friends even right now who are struggling with that type of thing.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I think everybody knows somebody, man.
Exactly. And that's the problem, right? Is
Yeah.
not enough is done, but it's easy to pray for people and etc. But you know, it's you got to just reach out, you know. And I think when you think of people, tomorrow's never promised, so just even shoot them a text, right?
That's what I mean, man. You got to check on the people you care about, man, because you don't know what's up.
Definitely.
You know, you're not with them 24/7. You know, you're not teenagers where everybody hangs out for like 2 days back and forth, staying at one another's house and shit. You know, everybody's got a life now. You don't know who's doing what and what's doing what to who. You know what I mean? So.
No, exactly.
And with that depression, you said that you could walk with and accept the anxiety and stuff. What do you think's causing that nowadays? What do you think's keeping you in that state?
For me, like my depression, I think is something that is like not seasonal, but like it's anxiety, right? Like my anxiety plays a part in it. So I'll get too deep in thought, and I have ADD as well, right? So the mind wanders, and then sometimes it wanders into places it shouldn't go, right? And then you dig yourself a hole almost, right? You get stuck in a rut. And
have you been that close to the edge ever?
Yeah, I'd say so.
When I get my lows, man, like my thoughts are it's instantly like, all right, you're depressed, we're going here. And that's where my brain goes, you know what I mean? And it's like that for like days and shit. So, like, I understand when people like are talking about like they're in those lows and their thoughts take them to that edge where they're like deciding on like when people get to the point where they're thinking of how they should write a note, that's when like you really know someone needs some fucking help.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too, right? Is when I was 16, actually, my best friend had committed suicide. So that's kind of what stopped me from going to that. And nowadays too, it's different, right? Like I wouldn't say that I felt like that in a long time. But especially with, you know, my wife, my daughters, I'm going on like 4 years sober and with right where I'm at. It gives you something to kind of live for, right? And when you get into a good headspace, a lot of times, like I quit everything down to like weed, you know what I mean? Like I quit cigarettes even. So when you end up in like a clear headspace, it's just like different, I think. And it's about staying mindful too, right? Like staying grounded with where you're at. And I don't want to be the like positive person and be like, you're not allowed to feel your feelings and like you being upset or you being depressed is invalid, but you got to just be able to be thankful for, you know, being here.
Yeah. So like with that anxiety and depression you carry, or you're like you said, you accept and walk with it, do you find you have like a good enough support system right now, or do you think you could be stronger? I mean, obviously you have your wife, your kids, they're there regardless, but like outside of that, do you find you have a strong circle, or do you think it could be stronger?
No, for sure. Like I have my company and my record label myself, Stay Royal Records. So I got a good group of guys in there and that's what I was going to say too, is mental health within men is like almost an unspoken thing too, right? Like you're not supposed to talk about it.
That's why I'm here trying to get artists, not just men, but I'll have female artists, but men like to open up, because it's so like quiet. Like there's an underline under mental health, and then under that underline is men.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, so I have a good crew there, and I've always had my family, you know, like I think it's easy to get caught up in that like teenage mindset of like my family doesn't like, they don't care, you know, but you know, when you look at it in hindsight, you're like, yeah, they do. So I have a good family, and especially even, you know, coming off tour, like I said, like a lot of those guys that are like, you know, I'm friends with now coming off that tour, I'm closer with than, you know, lifelong friends that I've had. So it's definitely, there's a good support system. And I think even with where I'm headed in my life is going to be even better than where I'm at now. Right. So it's like I said, I'm just kind of trying to stay in the pocket of where I'm at.
Yeah. It's been a good chat, man. We had a decent chat. It was good to get to know you, hear about your music, hear about how you've battled through your demons. You've been sober for 4 years. That's great, man. It's good that you're in, like you said, you're in a good mindset now. So we'll stop it here. We'll catch up again soon. But before we go, I know you have an outro track. You want to introduce that for us?
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, and just before we go too, you know, thank you for having me on, and it was awesome to be able to chat it up for a little bit and go back and forth, and you know, good conversations. I really do enjoy.
I feel like it became organic.
Yeah, no, I'm always like, for me, it's kind of where I'm always at with these types of things, right? It's just sit down and chat with whoever. I'm always really open, and I kind of just, like I said, I'm ADD, right? So there's no filter with where I'm at. So I'll talk with anybody who wants to sit down and talk, especially on stuff I'll talk about. But
I'm glad we could have you on the season. I mean, I'm glad that I reached out to you when I did. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for wanting to be on the show. I'll let you introduce that outro track.
This last track is with the brother Young Stitch.
My man.
That's called Type Away, and it was off my latest project, Hey Ano, which you can find on all streaming platforms.
Word up. All right.
Isn't you know me?
Ay, yeah, ay, word, ay, yeah, ay, word, ay, yeah, ay, word, ay, yeah, ay, what you say? You can't even hold my weight. You say that you know your worth, but you got nothing in your bank. Really though, you're too simple. Tell me how you taking over the summer with 2 singles. I drop consecutive efforts, I'll never settle in. Never put me in no box, cause that's some shit I never been. Yo, shit flop, and I ain't no one remember him. But when my shit drops, I'ma knock, better let me in. We are not the same blood but different veins. You want Jesus chains while I'm taking over everything. You got some shit to say, better hold your tongue. Loose lips sink ships, and now you gonna burn. What's the mood today? We not saying see vous play. We both tryna win the race, but I've been use a piece of cake like, hey, yeah, we no play. Give no fucks when people hate. Your shit, my shit leagues away, and you still feel some type of way. Like, I got a flow that is better than half the percentage of all of these rappers. I told them to step up and get on my level. They all couldn't make it, can't weather the damage that I've been inflicting. My shit ain't fiction. You listen to all of these rappers, they washing your brain, but you act like they all got the vision. I let them talk all that trash, yeah. I hold the weight on my back, I put my scene on the map, yeah. I'm gunning straight for the bag. My shit is real as it gets. You all about your image. You ain't do nothing big yet, but you got the presence of vets, yes. You lack passion, you whack rappers can't hold a candle to my flame, cause I'm on top and I got the traction. I won't stop, it's the motif, the fucking answer. No, see vous play like I ain't top my fucking manners. Hey, what's the mood today? We not saying see vous play. We both tryna win the race, but I've been use a piece of cake like, hey, yeah, we no play. Give no fucks when people hate. Your shit, my shit leagues away, and you still feel some type of way like,
hey, what you say? Someone tell this bitch to wait. I don't care, it's getting late. Tell her that I'm getting paid. Steak up on my dinner plate. This the sickest shit today. Someone make it simple, tell the plug or break a brick to flakes. Ay, I don't really care what they do for the grain. I'ma stay till I get my cake. Ay, I've been unaware of the games that they play, but I'm still gon' make my way. Ay, see me in the ends, I don't care what they spend. Ain't nobody gonna take my pay. Ay, I just got an end to the best in the biz. You ain't in, and it ain't your day. Ay, I be in the ends with the goons and they friends. Say, yo man, to get out my face. Ay, I be sitting trans while you tryna get a bench just to flex on the gram, you lame. I got the flow that is better than all of these rappers ahead of me peddling. Isn't it evident you are not dead than an elephant? Tell them I'm ready to get it there.
What's the mood today? We not saying see vous play. We both tryna win the race, but I've been use a piece of cake like, hey, yeah, we no play. Give no fucks when people hate. Your shit, my shit leagues away, and you still feel some type of way like.
All right, so that's it. That's episode 2 of season 3 of On the Line With. I'm your host, Hanley. We had Ray the Nihilist here. Again, thank you for coming on, my dude. I appreciate it. And yeah, man, it was great having you on. It was great talking to you. You seem like a great dude. If I'm ever in Saskatoon, I know who to holler at.
Nice, bro. Yeah, no, that's awesome, bro. We'll link for sure. Thank you, though. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thank you for everything.
Sending good vibes all the time. If you need to reach out anytime, you know, holler at me.
Thank you, though, man. I appreciate it.
Man. To the listeners, we'll see you in a week or 2 with episode 3. Everybody who listened, thank you. New listeners, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you're having any issues, mental health wise, addiction wise, you want to chop it up, need someone to talk to, hit me up. Thank you, Ray the Nihilist.
Yeah, peace out, bro.
Peace.